Morning, everybody. It's nice to see the various people here. That's very nice. Apparently there are 7 of us, so that's good. Today is one of those days that you might expect for the summer in Britain. It is cold, windy, raining. It's going to get worse. But there we are. Looking on the bright side of things, as my mother said, it's the sort of day we can get lots of work done. I'd rather go and sit in the sun, Mum, with a nice cooling drink. But never mind. A day that can get lots of work done is a day that I guess can't be sniffed at too much. Right, we have Gary here. Good morning, Gary. And Miss Connie. The reason why I was smiling to begin with, Miss Connie, was I was looking at your name there and thinking about your epic journey across or up Australia, I guess, was it? Or was it across? I'm not sure. 5,000 miles, which is a vast distance to travel. Wonderful. And I was thinking about all the various stereotypes that people have. You know, the sort of thing in this country here where it is widely thought that men in England all wear pinstripe trousers, dark morning coats, and bowler hats with copies of the Times rolled up underneath their arms and rolled up newspapers. Well, I haven't seen anybody like that for a very, very, very long time. When I lived in London, I belonged to a gentleman's club, you'd see the odd one or two where this was still the thing. Then if you think about France, they have to wear stripy jerseys and onions around their necks and a beret. In Switzerland, they'll be wearing some sort of lederhosen and yodeling. And I was thinking about you, Miss Connie, in Australia, wearing a hat with corks bobbing off it, and with a large knife at your side, so you can chop up poisonous snakes and spiders and things into smallish pieces. There we go. It's amusing. And in each of those cases, I guess the stereotype must have had some truth in it at some point, but no longer does. Onion sellers. The reason why French people are thought of as onion sellers is indeed French onion sellers used to come over here a great deal with their bicycles with onions all over them, and then they go back again at the end of the onion season. There we are. Let's see who else is here. Penelope, good morning. And Helia, good morning. Well, if we got it bad, you must have it worse. Suzanne, good morning. Nin. Ryan, my favorite program is back on. God bless you, Ryan. Helia, good morning again. That looks a bit better. Must improve my typing. And Scott appeared and then disappeared. I'm glad you found that amusing. How is the oak tree? Well, Scott, every morning I go and look at that wretched oak tree. And I water it religiously. I worry about it. I'm concerned with it. I water it so religiously and so carefully and so on that I realized this morning that I'd ignored all the other pots in plants. Pots in plants, plants in pots, and some of them are looking distinctly ill. Anyway, there we are. So your oak tree helps to remind me to pray for you, apart from everything else. Right, enough of all of these other things. Good morning, Bev. Nice to see you there. Right, today we are going to be looking at Acts chapter 16, verses 35 through 40. So without any further ado, let's get cracking. St. Paul and Silas were in prison in Philippi. They were in prison for having healed a servant girl, a slave girl, of the demon that was within her, which was prophesying. The demon had recognized Paul and Silas, and this girl was not being, and as in its sort of death throes, as it were shouting out about Paul and Silas being servants of the Most High God. For this, the townspeople were cross with them because the source of revenue had disappeared, and they had thrashed them and then put them into prison. And when it was day, the magistrates sent the officers, saying, "Let those men go." So the keeper of the prison reported these words to Paul, saying, "The magistrates have sent to let you go. Now therefore depart and go in peace." But Paul said to them, "They have beaten us openly, uncondemned Romans, and have thrown us into prison. And now do they put us out secretly? No, indeed. Let them come themselves and get us out." And the officers told these words to the magistrates, and they were afraid when they heard that they were Romans. Then they came and pleaded with them and brought them out and asked them to depart from the city. So they went out of the prison and entered the house of Lydia, and when they had seen the brethren, they encouraged them and departed. There we go. And when it was day, the magistrates sent their officers, saying, "Let those men go." So the magistrates, they're actually called strategists in the Greek. They're the people who are responsible for the city. And I think in Arabic they call them the responsibles. Here in this country, we don't really have anything similar, but it would be the local sheriff. Our sheriffs are different from American ones. The local sheriff, the Lord Lieutenant maybe, or the county, but they're lower than those people. So the chief of police, folk like that. The chief constable, maybe the mayor, and members of the town council. And these people have got responsibility, but they had quite a lot of autonomy there too. So these folks send their officers. It actually means the rod holders. And these people, that their rods show their secondary importance, but nevertheless importance. And the rods are there to show who they are, but they also used to smack people with. In the Anglican Church now, if you go to the local cathedral, there's an amusing little thing that still happens. They have a personal group of people called vergers, and these vergers dress up in cassocks and a sort of gown, and they hold a rod, a piece of wood, quite thick piece of wood, this sort of thickness like that, inch and a half across, 3 centimeters, something like that, quite long, maybe about a yard or a meter long, and on the end of it is usually a heavy silver, some sort of bauble, and on the other end something slightly more pointed. And they come along and they sort of organize the service. They go backwards and forwards collecting people to read lessons, that sort of thing. It's one of the bits of entertainment that one sees if one has to go to an Anglican service. It used to be that various parishes had a similar person, the verger, who would also usually have a sort of way of walking. If you're in England, then you'll remember Trumpton, and the way that people walk in Trumpton, which is a cartoon, or what do you call it? Where they make people out of plasticine. Anyway, they sort of plod along, taking people from one place to another. Well, that rod is a vestige of these rod holders. Another name for those, I think, something like lectors. If you saw Her Former Majesty Queen Elizabeth II's funeral, a very poignant point came in that, where one of her officials, a high official in her household, came along and snapped his rod in half and placed it upon the coffin. Very simple rod, really, and this was a sign of his office. He would not be able to smack anybody very hard with that, but originally it would have been quite a big staff, and these thin rods are there. If you look at the icon of the rublief icon of the hospitality of Abraham, sometimes called the Trinity icon, which we'll find in Sergei Posad. If you look at the three angels there, masquerading as the three members of the Trinity, you'll see that each one of them is holding a very small rod. And again, this is their rod of office. You see it too if you look at an archangel on the doors of your angel doors or deacon's doors in the iconostasis of your church. If they have pictures of angels there, they'll also be holding these rods. Well, these guys are rod bearers also. They're sort of the local cops, the local police. So they show these rods of office, but they're also of force. And these are the guys who came, not the magistrates. The magistrates put them in prison, and quite understandably, they send the lesser people off to release St. Paul and St. Silas. Let those men go, they say. Verse 36. So the keeper of the prison, a bit more to say about that. So quite clearly, the magistrates know that Paul and Silas have done nothing wrong. Good morning, Joe. Yes, indeed he did. Good morning, Ahle. God bless you. So the magistrates, one, they knew that Paul and Silas had done nothing wrong. Secondly, they have probably witnessed or knew about the miracle that had happened to this slave girl. Number three, they had, of course, experienced the earthquake, and now they want to get rid of Paul and Silas, get rid of them. You know, we've had enough of them. We don't want their miracles around here, thank you very much. We don't want their preaching either. We certainly don't want God interfering with our daily life. And actually, most people act in that way when they come across God. They are affronted by God. They don't want God to have anything to do with them. Get out of my house, they'd say to the Lord if he appeared. So the keeper of the prison reported these words to Paul, saying, the magistrates are sent to let you go. Now therefore depart and go in peace. So this simply reported to Paul, words to the effect of, okay, they'll let you off, good luck to you. That's basically what it means. And also the jailer obviously is saying to him, go in peace now. But Paul said to them, they have beaten us openly, uncondemned Romans, and have thrown us into prison. And now do they put us out secretly? No, indeed. Let them come themselves and get us out. Quite like this sort of show of strength from St. Paul. If they want us to leave the prison, they can come and get us. Otherwise, we're staying where we are. As a magistrate, probably think, okay, contempt, and stay there another night. That's because I'm a bad-tempered person. So, Paul is making various points, making 4 points, in fact. The first one is that they were uncondemned and yet beaten and put in prison. The second one is they were punished publicly, and therefore a public apology and public humiliation and righting of wrongs by corrupt officials needs to be undergone. You put me in here, you get me out. This is what he's saying. And then, so there's two things there. And then fourthly, they were Romans. And Romans had certain protection. Now you could either buy your Roman citizenship or you could inherit it. St. Paul, we know, has inherited it. Silas, we don't know. That's not we don't know. There's no idea. But either way around, both of them have Roman citizenship. And as Roman citizens, they have certain protection. And one of those protections is not to be shoved into prison without due process, as we'd say nowadays. Another one is you don't get beaten, you don't get flogged. They might decapitate you, as they do to Paul later on, but you don't get beaten, you don't get thrashed, not unless you actually have done something to earn it. Now, they might well in those days, rather like they did here in the past, if there was some naughty boy, the local copper or the local magistrate, the local lector, or the church warden, in fact, or the verger of the local church, might be told by the magistrate to go and give the boy a good spanking, in which case it picks and sticks out of the hedge, and give him a good spanking with that. And of course, people were regularly put in stocks and put in those things that go around your feet and neck, which I can't remember what they're called now. And they were then left there for a certain amount of time. A sizable number of them actually died, especially they put around their neck. And they were stuck there for public humiliation. And that could be done on a much lower basis than actually finding somebody guilty. You were just cross with them, or they were regularly drunk, or you saw them, I don't know, fighting or something. Summary justice, get on with it, stick them in the stocks for a day or two, and that'll teach them to behave. Similarly with women who are nagging all the time, didn't necessarily have to go to court, just take them and throw them in the pond. And teach them a lesson not to do that anymore. It's what a terrible society, can you imagine? Oh my goodness. Okay, instead of parking fines, getting dunked in the Brayford. Yesterday I was somewhere, I was in a cemetery in Louth, all of which went rather well, by the way. Thank you for your prayers. And as I arrived there, so did a big van full of people who had been condemned by the magistrates to so many hours of slavery. They call it community payback now, where you have to do things on behalf of the society as a whole. And I have to say that these guys had done a good job around the cemetery. They had really tidied it up, which was good. Verse 38. Anyway, St. Paul is not going to be released without anybody saying nothing about it. And the officers told these words to the magistrates, and they were afraid when they heard that they were Romans. So the magistrates are afraid, not because they have done something wrong, or because they have acted immorally, but because Paul and Silas are Roman citizens. For mistreating a Roman citizen, you yourself could be treated quite badly. So they want to hush this up, quieten it all over, pull the carpet over the evidence, and so on. They don't want to be punished at all. So they're frightened by this. Then they came, verse 39, and pleaded with them and brought them out, asked them to depart from the city. So they do turn up, and they do actually take them out, and they plead with them. It actually says in the Greek, they made representation to them. In other words, they are asking for forgiveness of this behavior that they have had. So they come whining and pleading. They want to cover this up, and they want to get them to leave the city so that everybody can quietly forget about the whole episode. They're saying to them, let's just forget all about this, shall we? And Paul, now, having been let out of prison, despite the fact that probably he deserves some sort of compensation, he's had his apology, they have come and let him out. He doesn't decide, okay, now I'm going to take this further. He leaves it there. And verse 40, and the last one we're going to have today. So they went out of prison and entered the house of Lydia, and when they had seen the brethren, they encouraged them and departed. So they do leave the prison, but they show their own independence, and they return back to the scene of their mission, the scene of their first success, that they go back to the house of Lydia. they go back to the brethren who are now meeting there, and the house of Lydia becomes a house of prayer. They don't need to go down to the river anymore, by which, incidentally, there is now a nice little shrine where Lydia was first met St. Paul, where they went to pray. So they show their own independence by going back to Lydia. And they show also that despite the fact that the civic authorities have shown disrespect to the Lord's message, the Lord's message has got through. There is now a church there in Philippi. There is a group of people who they can call brethren, who are there going to meet and going to continue to meet until this day. So they encourage those faithful, they put heart into them, they teach them further. We don't know how long they stayed there for, whether they popped in, had a few sandwiches, a beer or two, and then went off, having packed their bags, or whether they stayed there a few more days. It is not clear. And they then go, leaving behind Lydia. Now, Lydia remains, for the Orthodox, an important figure. Nowadays, we call that area of the world Europe, and she is the first person to be baptized in what we now call Europe. So the first person that side of the Bosphorus, as it were. And we now know her as Saint Lydia, equal to the apostles. And there's a whole sort of thing about her and so on. And in church, we celebrate her with special services. In the Antiochian church on May the 20th, in the Russian churches on 2 other dates. They have 2 dates to celebrate, one in May, I think, and the other one in June or July even, I think in June. Is it June the 27th? It slipped my mind. Anyway, I do know that the Antiochians and Greeks, I think, celebrate her feast day on May the 20th. So she remains an important person within the church. Okay, there we are. So we have it there. Good morning, Joan. I saw an absolutely beautiful cake that you made the other day, with flowers all over it and sticking up out of the top. Really delightful. Joan says, I imagine the angel kicked St. Peter in prison with his rod. Indeed he did, gave him a good old poking with it. Hey you, wake up. There are all sorts of things like that you find within the scriptures that actually show the sense of humour that angels, that God himself has. And also, the corollary of that is also the way that human beings also argue with God. I always remember, you think about angels, there's that business about Abraham going after the 3 angels, saying, well, how many people, good people, need there to be in Sodom and Gomorrah for you not to destroy it? What about 50? Sorry, 50 is okay. Well, okay, what about 30? Well, 30 is okay. What about 10? 10's okay. And Abraham doesn't push it any further, but actually, all the people of goodness come out of Sodom and Gomorrah. God is not going to destroy them. Ryan says, Father, I don't fully understand why Paul was reluctant to leave prison at first. Well, Paul had been shoved into prison and he's innocent. And if he just sort of left the prison, then he would leave the prison, firstly, accepting his punishment. In other words, saying, I have done something wrong, and therefore I was put into prison. Secondly, he would leave prison without a formal apology from the magistrates, and he wasn't willing to do that. So he stayed in prison. Remember, it's not such an unpleasant place for him anymore. He's probably still eating his breakfast with the jailer and Silas and explaining to him various things. So when they come and say, you're free to go, off you go, bub, he says, hang on. Tell them to come here. They put me in prison immorally. Now they can let me go and make a formal apology. put me back in those chains, they can come with the key themselves and let me out, and apologize and explain themselves, and then I might go. So that's really what's going on there, right? Okay. Any other questions for anybody else? In case anybody's wondering about the oak tree, Scott very kindly gave me a 25-year-old oak tree the other day. You might expect, therefore, something that is round about 25 feet tall. That's roughly how well, they grow a bit quicker than that, actually. They grow fairly quickly. And certainly I have planted oak trees in other places, 25 years old, that are very big. But this one is only this big. So how big is that? About 9 inches maybe. And it's a bonsai in a nice little pot, little plastic bonsai pot. And I now have to look after this thing. So it worries me no end. Somebody else's 25 years of work doing something to it might come to an end just because I forget to water it. Okay, so Ryan, he's more or less saying, no, Yabu sucks, you did this to me. Now come and see what it feels like when you find yourself in the wrong on this. Come and apologize. Humble yourself. Okay, right, there we are for that. We are still praying for Constantine and Andre, whose lives are lost in a fishing accident. And we're praying for those people who are ill. So for Joan's friend Lael, for Nicholas, who is very ill now, for Nicoletta and Nicoletta, both of whom I think are in Romania at the moment. Pray for Jean, whose life is coming to an end, for a swift and painless departure for her, please. Painless, peaceful, and unashamed. Daniel, who was and is very ill, but seems to be getting better. And certainly, according to the doctors, he should be dead about a year ago, which is roughly when we started praying for him, just before then. Pray for Joseph, who, if you look back, there is good news about Joseph. Some nice things to say about Joseph. This is Erin's son, that he seems to be improving, and there's a very strong chance he's going to lose his foot, and he is now returning to work, bit by bit, slowly. Pray also for Christina's Elizabeth, who also seems to be doing well, for Judy, for her continued recovery in health, Dino's son Simon, for him. Pray for Kelly, who is getting therapy, and also for her dog, who's called Lovey. It's a great name for a dog. You think that's a nice name? Lovey, come here. Round here, half the world will look round. And they say, now then, Lovey. Or Duck as well, they call you Duck round here too. I don't know why people call you Duck, but anyway, they do. Okay, right. God bless you and keep you. Tomorrow we will be cleaning the church. Now I'm going to go and change all the hangings in the church from blue to red for the ordinary time in the church. Then we'll have prayers for the Malaban, which we have every Thursday morning at 11 o'clock. Pray for all of these people again, and many others that we pray for. Everybody that anybody's asked me to pray for at the Prosca Midi, we pray again for them then. And then the rest of my day, lucky old me, I will be doing various things in the church, and then beginning my least favourite job, and that is writing the newsletter. Good morning, Ashley. God bless you and keep you. and Armando. I find it difficult to read what you've said there. Anyway, God bless you and keep you. All right, okay, bye-bye. And thank you, Ashley. God bless you too. Well, you could paint today if you wanted to, or you could paint tomorrow if you want to stay a bit longer. Okay, but you can't tomorrow because you're working, aren't you? So you could come today sometime. I'm going to be here most of the day. I'm hoping to go home about 3 o'clock though. I want to do one thing in the garden. Then all of those big trees to be cut down will have been dealt with. Thank you, Miss Connie. You can pack away your hat with corks on it for another year. Isn't that a great thing? Hear your prayers. God bless you and keep you.